If you're over 60, there's one uncomfortable truth almost nobody says out loud. The same jar of healthy nuts on your kitchen counter can either support your heart and longevity or quietly fuel inflammation in your body. Here is why. Nuts are not all the same. Some have been linked in medical research to better heart outcomes and longer life. But others, especially in older adults, can push cholesterol in the wrong direction, strain the kidneys, or carry a real risk of mold toxins if storage isn't right. In fact, a large long-term study published in the New England Journal of Medicine found that people who ate nuts more regularly were associated with a lower risk of death from all causes over time. And in the well-known PREDIM trial, a Mediterranean-style eating pattern that included nuts lowered major cardiovascular events in people at high risk. But here's the part most people miss. Those benefits show up when you choose the right nuts and use them the right way. Even U.S. health authorities have warned that aflatoxin, a mold toxin, can occur in foods like peanuts and some nuts depending on growing and storage conditions. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 4 worst nuts you should avoid after 60 and the 4 you should eat daily, so you don't have to guess anymore. Please watch all the way to the end, because nut number 1 is the one most people believe is the healthiest, yet it's often the one that causes the most trouble. And before we name the first one, you need to understand why. After 60, your body handles nuts very differently, because that's exactly what we cover next. After 60, your body doesn't process food the way it did at 40. And that difference matters a lot with nuts, because nuts are dense. Dense fat, dense minerals, and often dense salt and oil from roasting. First, let's talk about your kidneys. Even in people who don't have kidney disease, kidney filtration tends to decline with age. The National Kidney Foundation shows that the average estimated GFR is about 85 inches, the 60 to 69 range, and about 75 after age 70. So the same handful of salty, heavily roasted nuts that felt fine years ago can hit harder now. More strain, more fluid shifts, and more sensitivity to things like sodium and oxalates. Second, your liver and your clearance system. Aging is linked with meaningful changes in liver blood flow. Some medical imaging reviews describe reductions on the order of 35 to 40% in older age. And when blood flow and metabolism slow down, your body can hold on to certain compounds longer, especially if you're also taking blood pressure meds, cholesterol meds, or diabetes medications. The result is simple. Your margin for error gets smaller. Third, your blood vessels. Arteries naturally become stiffer with age. Pulse wave velocity, one of the standard measures of arterial stiffness, is strongly associated with aging. That means your system becomes more reactive to the wrong kinds of fats and too much salt. What used to be a small dietary oops becomes a bigger cardiovascular stressor. And finally, hydration. Older adults store less water in the body and often feel less thirst, which makes dehydration easier. And dehydration can make dense foods feel even harsher, more fatigue, more constipation, more dizziness, and more strain on the kidneys. So, if you want the clear list 4 nuts to avoid and 4 you should eat daily, comment number 1 right now. And please watch to the end, because nut number 1 is the one most people trust the most, yet it causes the most trouble. Now, let's start with the dangerous nut number 4. Macadamia is the kind of nut that feels luxurious. It's buttery, it's addictive, and it's incredibly easy to keep reaching for more. And that's exactly why it lands on my list as dangerous nut number 4 after age 60. It's not because macadamias are toxic. It's because they're extremely calorie dense. 100 grams is around 718 calories. And a single ounce, about 28 grams, can be about 200 calories, often just 10 to 12 nuts. That means a small handful can quietly turn into a large extra meal without you even noticing. Now, here's the tricky part. In controlled studies, macadamias can look beneficial. Some clinical trials show improvements in cholesterol numbers when they're eaten in a measured portion inside an overall healthy diet. But real life over 60 is different. Most people don't weigh out a portion. They eat with their fingers. They snack while watching TV. And once the bag is open, it's easy to blow past a reasonable amount, especially if they're roasted in oil or covered in salt. Let me give you a real example. I had a patient named Robert, 67. He told me he had quit sweets and replaced them with nuts because he wanted to protect his heart. But within 6 weeks, his belly was noticeably bigger, his morning blood pressure looked worse, and he felt more sluggish. When we tracked his routine, the answer was simple. Every evening, he was eating nearly half a bowl of salted roasted macadamias. So we changed one thing. We switched him to unsalted almonds, measured to 1 ounce, and we added one rule. Once you finish the portion, the jar goes back into the cabinet, away from the couch. Within about a month, his weight started trending down, and his mornings felt steadier. So, if you love macadamias, keep them as an occasional treat, not a nightly habit. Because after 60, the margin for a little extra gets smaller fast. And now we move to dangerous nut number 3. A small nut that can cause big trouble when it builds up over time. Brazil nuts look small. They taste rich, and they're often marketed like an anti-aging superfood. But after age 60, they can become dangerous. Nut number 3 for one very specific reason. They can deliver way too much selenium, way too fast. Selenium is not bad. Your body needs it. The problem is dose. A single Brazil nut can contain roughly 68 to 91 micrograms of selenium. That means just one nut can meet or even exceed the daily recommended amount for many adults. And the safety limit, the upper level, is 400 micrograms per day. So if someone eats 4, 5, or 6 Brazil nuts a day, and then also gets selenium from eggs, fish, cereals, or a supplement, they can quietly drift into a risky zone without realizing it. And when selenium gets too high for too long, it can show up in ways people don't connect to food at all. Hair shedding, brittle nails, or nails that split, a metallic taste, or garlic-like breath, stomach upset, fatigue, irritability, in some cases, even nerve-related symptoms. I want you to picture a real situation. I worked with a woman named Linda, 72. She started eating Brazil nuts daily because she heard they were good for the brain. On top of that, she was taking a selenium supplement, thinking more would be better. Within a few weeks, she told me her hair was coming out in the shower, and her nails were suddenly weak and breaking. When we added up her intake, the selenium load was simply too high. We removed the supplement and reduced Brazil nuts to 1 nut occasionally. And over the next stretch of time, those symptoms gradually calmed down. So, no, Brazil nuts are not automatically forbidden. Some studies do suggest benefits in certain contexts. But if you're over 60, this is the kind of nut where a little may be fine, and a daily habit can become a problem. Now we move to dangerous. Nut number 2, the one almost every home has, and the risk is something you often can't see with your eyes. Peanuts are the everyday nut. They're cheap, easy to find, easy to snack on, and people often treat them like a smart protein choice. But after 60, peanuts can become dangerous nut number 2 for a reason that has nothing to do with calories or salt. The real risk is something you usually cannot see: aflatoxin, a toxin produced by certain molds. U.S. food safety authorities have warned that peanuts are among the foods most commonly associated with aflatoxin, and long-term exposure can raise the risk of liver cancer. And here's the uncomfortable part. At home, you can't reliably look at a peanut and know whether it was exposed earlier in the growing, harvesting, or storage process. Mold growth depends heavily on heat and humidity, and contamination can occur upstream before it ever reaches your kitchen. And that's only half the story. Peanuts also tend to be very high in omega-6 fats. Omega-6 isn't automatically bad. Your body needs it. But in real life, most older adults already get a lot of omega-6 from fried foods, processed snacks, and restaurant oils while getting very little omega-3. When that balance shifts too far, many people notice more stiffness, more aches, and more inflammatory flare-ups in the body. Let me give you a real example. I worked with a man named George, 70 years old. Every night, he ate 2 big spoonfuls of peanut butter because he thought it would keep him full and help him avoid sweets. But he kept feeling bloated, his stomach felt irritated, and his weight slowly crept up, even though he swore he wasn't eating candy or dessert. When we switched him to a measured portion of pumpkin seeds or unsalted almonds, his digestion calmed down, and his weight finally stopped climbing. So if peanuts are a daily habit for you, I want you to pay attention. There are safer swaps that still feel satisfying without the hidden risks. And now we're going to the one that confuses almost everyone. Dangerous nut number 1, cashews. Cashews are the classic healthy-looking trap. They taste slightly sweet, they're easy to chew, and they look clean and harmless. So, many people over 60 think, this has to be better than cookies or candy. But cashews become my dangerous nut number 1 because they hit 3 weak points in an older body: oxalates, portion creep, and the way they're processed. First, oxalates. Harvard's oxalate lists show that cashews can be relatively high, around 63 milligrams of oxalate per 1 ounce serving in certain forms. And for anyone with a history of calcium oxalate kidney stones, kidney health resources like the NIDDK emphasize that managing dietary oxalate can be an important part of prevention. The scary part is, many people don't realize they're sensitive to oxalates until stones return. And medical case reports have even documented oxalate-related kidney injury tied to very high intake of oxalate-rich foods, including nuts in extreme patterns. Second, cashews are very easy to overeat. 1 ounce is only a small handful, yet it's already around 150 to 160 calories. And compared to some other nuts, cashews can be more snackable. They don't always keep you full as long as people expect. So it becomes one handful, then another, and suddenly it's a bowl. Third, the processed versions. Many cashews are oil roasted, salted, or flavored. That combination, oil plus salt plus easy to chew texture, is basically engineered to make your hand go back into the container without thinking. And after 60, that's where the trouble starts. Extra calories, more sodium, more thirst, more nighttime snacking, and sometimes more swelling. Let me give you a real example. A woman named Patricia, 68, had a kidney stone history years earlier. She replaced her afternoon snack with what she called a healthy bowl of roasted cashews. Within weeks, she noticed that familiar dull ache in her side and discomfort with urination. When we reviewed her routine, the portion was far beyond what she realized. We tightened the portion, switched her to safer daily options, and her symptoms eased significantly. So cashews aren't something you need to fear, but they are the nut you need to control the most after 60. And now, we flip to the more important part: the 4 nuts you should eat daily, based on a simple, safe selection rule that works for older adults. Now you've seen something important. After 60, the question isn't just, should I eat nuts or not? The real question is, which ones, how much, and by what rule? Because if you only cut the 4 dangerous ones without replacing them with smarter choices, most people drift right back to cookies, salty snacks, or extra starch, and that can be even worse. So, what's the rule for choosing the 4 nuts you should eat daily? Rule number 1. Pick nuts with strong support for heart health and inflammation control, especially those rich in unsaturated fats, and, when possible, plant-based omega-3 seconds. After 60, your blood vessels and your brain benefit the most from fats that calm inflammation rather than feed it. Rule number 2. Portion control is non-negotiable. Even good nuts are calorie-dense. A safe, realistic target for most older adults is about 1 ounce, around 28 grams per serving, or split into smaller amounts across the day. That's how you get the benefits without accidentally turning nuts into a 4th meal. Rule number 3. Choose the least processed version you can. Unsalted, no sugar coating, no heavy oil roasting. That one shift, unsalted, dry roasted, or raw, can make a big difference in blood pressure, nighttime thirst, and swelling. Rule number 4. Match the nut to your goal. The best choice for memory and blood sugar support is not always the same as the best choice for eyes, joints, or sleep. And I'm going to guide you to the right one for the outcome you care about so you don't have to guess. Now, we begin with daily nut number 4, one that's especially helpful for antioxidant support, memory, and blood sugar steadiness: pecans. Pecans are my daily nut number 4 for people over 60 because they help you feel satisfied without spiking your blood sugar the way sweet snacks often do. But what makes them truly valuable is the heart data. In a 12-week randomized trial involving adults at risk for metabolic syndrome, replacing typical daily snacks with about 57 grams of pecans per day improved several lipid and lipoprotein measures and improved overall diet quality. In plain language, when people swap cookies, crackers, or salty chips for pecans in a structured way, Their cardiovascular profile tends to move in a healthier direction. But pecans come with one important warning. They're calorie dense. A single ounce, about 28 grams, can be close to 200 calories. So the goal is not more is better. The goal is the right dose. For most older adults, 1 ounce is enough to get the benefits while keeping weight under control. And choose the clean version, unsalted, not sugar-coated, not candied. Because once you add salt or sugar, you often pay for it later. More thirst at night, worse sleep, more morning puffiness, and more cravings. Let me give you a real example. A woman named Susan, 71, had a strong sweet craving around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. That craving was pushing her into cookies, and then she would make up for it by eating less dinner only to snack again later. We tried one simple switch, 1 measured ounce of pecans, about 19 pecan halves eaten slowly, with a glass of water. Within about 10 days, she told me the most surprising change was this. My sweet craving is just gone. And because she wasn't chasing sugar anymore, dinner stopped turning into overeating. So pecans can be a powerful daily tool if you keep the portion honest. And once pecans help stabilize cravings, we move to daily nut number 3. One that supports eye health and helps you control portions naturally. Pistachios. Pistachios are my daily nut number 3 for people over 60 because they do 2 things at the same time. They support your eyes, and they help you control portions without fighting your own cravings. First, the eye connection. A recent dietary intervention study showed that adding pistachios to the diet can increase macular pigment optical density, often called MPOD, in adults who started with low lutein and zeaxanthin intake. MPOD is a meaningful marker because it's tied to how well the retina is protected against light stress and age-related change. In simple terms, pistachios aren't just a snack. They're a practical way to feed your eyes as you get older. Now, heart and metabolism. Multiple clinical trials and meta-analyses have found that pistachio intake can improve certain lipid markers such as total cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, and triglycerides in different populations. And for people who struggle with evening snacking, some research in pre-diabetes settings suggests pistachios can be a smarter night snack than refined carbohydrates, supporting better overall diet quality without the same metabolic downsides. But the most powerful pistachio benefit is behavioral, and it's simple. Choose pistachios in the shell. When you have to crack and peel them, you slow down automatically. Your brain has time to register fullness, and the pile of shells in front of you becomes a built-in portion tracker. It's one of the easiest ways to stop mindless eating. A realistic target is 1 ounce, about 28 grams. That's roughly 49 kernels, around 159 calories, with about 5.7 grams of protein and roughly 3 grams of fiber. That combination, protein plus fiber, helps you feel steady, not hungry again 30 minutes later. So, if you want more advice like this, simple, evidence-based, and actually usable in real life, subscribe to the channel. Because in the next part, we move to the most powerful pair for older adults, almonds and walnuts. And it'll show you which one is better in the morning and which one can be better later in the day if you want calmer evenings and better sleep. Daily nut number 2 is almonds, because almonds are the most livable choice for people over 60. They're easy to find, easy to portion, and they usually don't cause trouble when you choose the right version, unsalted. Just 1 ounce, about 28 grams, roughly 23 to 24 almonds, gives you about 164 calories, around 6 grams of protein, about 3.5 grams of fiber, about 7.3 milligrams of vitamin E, and roughly 76.7 milligrams of magnesium. For older adults, that vitamin E plus magnesium combination matters. Antioxidant support, healthier vessel function, and better muscle comfort. A simple strategy is to eat that portion in the morning or early afternoon so you get steadier energy and you're less likely to snack late at night. Daily nut number 1 is walnuts, because walnuts stand out for plant-based omega-3 called ALA. Medical nutrition sources consistently highlight that ALA intake is linked with cardiovascular benefits, healthier blood vessel function, and positive associations with brain health. In other words, walnuts are one of the most practical brain and heart foods you can add without changing your whole life. And if you're wondering whether this really matters, look at what we've seen in major dietary research. In the well-known pre-diabetes trial, a Mediterranean-style eating pattern that included nuts, reduced major cardiovascular events in a high-risk population. That's not hype, that's meaningful real-world impact. So here's the takeaway. Avoid the 4 dangerous nuts we covered, and keep 2 small daily habits, 1 ounce of almonds, and a portion of walnuts several days a week. If you want me to give you the simplest what to buy and when to eat it guide, subscribe to the channel and comment number 1, because next I'm going to compress everything into a 10-second rule you can remember for life. Now, I'm going to compress this entire video into a 10-second rule so you don't have to memorize a long list. You only need to remember 1 sentence. Here it is. After 60, nuts are only healthy when you choose the right kind, the right dose, and the right timing. The right kind means this. Avoid the 4 that most commonly cause trouble for older adults: macadamias, because they're so easy to overeat; Brazil nuts, because selenium can run dangerously high when it builds up; peanuts, because of mold toxin risk in the supply and storage chain; and cashews, because they're easy to exceed in portion and can be a problem for people sensitive to oxalates. You don't have to fear these foods, you just don't want them to become a daily habit. The right dose means this: 1 ounce per serving, about 28 grams. That's enough to get the benefits from healthy fats, fiber, vitamins, and minerals without accidentally turning healthy nuts into a 4th meal. And the right timing means this: eat nuts in the morning or early afternoon to stabilize cravings and reduce nighttime snacking. If you crave sweets in the late afternoon, pecans can be a gentle replacement. If you want eye support and natural portion control, choose pistachios in the shell because they slow you down. And if you want the strongest long-term foundation for heart and brain, keep almonds as a daily habit and add walnuts several days a week. If this 10-second rule is easy to remember, comment number 1 so I know you stayed with me to this point, and subscribe to the channel, because in the final part, it'll tell you exactly what to buy at the store to reduce risk. And the 3 common mistakes that make good people say, "I'm eating nuts to be healthy," but end up backfiring. When you're standing in the grocery aisle, you don't need to read 20 different labels. You only need to remember 3 things to lower your risk as much as possible. Number 1, choose the least processed version you can. Raw or dry roasted. Unsalted. No sugar coating. No honey glaze. Those extra layers don't just add calories. They make you eat faster, crave more, and feel thirstier at night. And they make it much harder to stop at a healthy portion. Number 2, buy sealed packaging in a reasonable size with a clear expiration date. After 60, oversized bags often turn into a slow, month-long habit. The longer a bag stays open, the more it can pick up humidity, lose quality, and increase the chance of problems during home storage. Smaller packages may feel inconvenient, but they're usually safer and easier to finish while they're still fresh. Number 3, storage determines half your success. When you get home, portion the nuts into smaller containers and seal them tightly. If you live in a warm or humid place, store them in the refrigerator. And most important of all, never keep the jar right next to your couch or your TV chair. That one mistake turns a healthy food into mindless eating. Now, here are the 3 mistakes that make good people say, "I'm eating nuts to be healthy," but end up backfiring. Mistake number 1, eating straight from the bag. You never truly know how much you've eaten until the bag is nearly empty. Mistake number 2, choosing flavored nuts and telling yourself, "It's still nuts." No, what often hurts you is the salt, sugar, and added oils riding along with the nuts. Mistake number 3, eating nuts late at night. You get thirstier, sleep worse, and wake up feeling heavier and more tired. In the next part, it'll give you a simple 7-day plan, 1 nut per day, 1 best time to eat it so you can do this correctly without overthinking. Here is the simplest 7-day plan I use for people over 60. No complicated measuring. Just 1 rule, 1 ounce per serving. Eat slowly and eat it before the evening. Day 1, almonds in the morning or early afternoon. This is your strongest foundation day. Day 2, walnuts in the early afternoon. If you carry stress or mental fatigue, this is the day many people feel a calmer, steadier mind. Day 3, pistachios in the shell in the late afternoon, right when snack cravings usually hit. The goal is to slow down, see the shells, and stop naturally. Day 4, pecans in the late afternoon if you crave sweets. This is your sugar craving breaker day. Day 5. Repeat almonds because real results come from repetition, not perfection. Day 6. Repeat walnuts. Day 7. Choose the one that felt best for your body this week and write down one change you noticed. Better sleep, better energy, less bloating, fewer cravings, or less stiffness. If you want me to make a printable version of this 7-day plan that you can tape to your refrigerator, comment number 1 and stay to the very end, because I'm going to repeat the single most important point to keep you from sliding back into the 4 dangerous nuts. And now, let's close the video with one final sentence you'll remember the longest. Here is your closing line. It's simple, yet, if you remember it, you'll avoid most of the mistakes people over 60 make with nuts. Don, ask, is this nut healthy? Ask, can I control it? Because if you can't control it, then even an expensive, natural nut can still lead to weight gain, nighttime thirst, poor sleep, and that heavy, tired feeling the next morning. And if you choose the wrong type, you may also be exposing yourself to quiet risks you won't feel immediately today, but that can matter over time. So, keep it to 3 steps. Stop making the 4 dangerous nuts a daily habit. Keep the 4 better nuts in a strict 1-ounce portion and eat them before the evening. And if you want me to make the next video about the best nuts for joint pain or the best nuts for memory after 70, comment number 1 so I know which topic you want first. And if this video made things clearer for you, please subscribe, because each week it'll give you one small change that's safe, evidence-based, and easy enough to actually stick with. And the moment you comment, you'll start to notice something powerful. Health after 60 doesn't require more and more things. It requires the right things. In this final part, I want you to do one tiny thing today so this video doesn't just feel helpful and then disappear. Go to your kitchen cabinet. Look at the nuts you have right now and answer 2 questions. First, am I eating this for my health, or is it just a habit to keep chewing? Second, if I leave this next to my couch, can I truly stop at 1 ounce? If your honest answer is, not sure, then you already know the fix. Move that jar up into a cabinet. Portion the nuts into small containers and only take 1 serving at a time. That one change alone has helped many older adults cut down on nighttime snacking without needing heroic willpower. And here's your last reminder. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be consistent. 1 ounce a day, the right nuts, the right timing, repeat it for 7 days, and then notice what changes first. Cravings, sleep, energy, bloating, stiffness, or your morning blood pressure. If this video helped you, comment number 1 and tell me what you want next. Joint pain or memory after 70. And please subscribe, because we'll keep doing changes like this: small, safe, realistic, and trustworthy. Thanks for staying with me to the end.